And so next up, he did show up, which is nice. So Mark Skwarek,
Skwarek.
Skwarek,
Yeah.
who's with NYU, is going to share with us his presentation. So.
Sure. Hello, thank you very much for coming out today. So I'm Mark Skwarek. I'm a full-time faculty member at NYU Polytech, and I'm also the CEO of Semblance Augmented Reality, and we're displaying our wares downstairs. So a few things that I've done in the past. I actually did the BP logo hack. This came out like quite some time ago. This was cited by World Trademark Review as the first logo hack. I also organized a group called Manifest AR, so I kind of gathered the people together. We're an augmented reality artist group, two of which of our members are actually showing in SF MoMA. I think it just came down. But we're showing all over the world, so check us out if you get a chance. I also organized the AR Occupy Wall Street movement. We had, I think, about 35 artists from around the world submit works. This was part of the AR, or the Occupy Wall Street movement. And this gave people from around the world a voice, and it was one of the first organized global protests that took place. Other things I do, I'm a director of an augmented reality gallery in Bushwick, New York. We actually have a pretty hot little piece of real estate over there, and I show internationally famous artists in our gallery. We just had an opening last week with Mark Peterson. It went over very well. So come check it out if you're ever in Bushwick. So again, I'm with NYU and part of the Integrated Digital Media Program at the BXMC Experimental Center. So if anybody's interested in AR, please come by and see us sometime. Things that we've done. I teach undergrad classes, 3D graphics 1, 2, and 3. So here's some 3D. This is some of the stuff that we do in the grad class. Last semester, we began working with biofeedbacks. We're using biosensors. Basically, everything we do in our class is mobile augmented reality. So you're seeing the body basically react in real time. It's updating as your body's updating. We made a giant scale human body, much like the Fantastic Voyage, the movie, and you're able to navigate through the human body at fantastic scale, and you can also scale in using kind of a finger click and go down to cellular interactions. This is an ongoing project. This was somewhat in collaboration with the Discovery Channel. Down below, we also have, we're doing augmented reality voice recognition. So you start talking to your avatars and they start reacting, but these are augmented reality avatars. These aren't virtual ones. What else do we have? So here's some shots of the human body that was running. You can kind of, it's all animated. The mouth opens, you go inside, and then the stomach is kind of doing the grinding motion. The lungs are kind of filling with air and whatnot. But yeah, this was an interesting project. It's still ongoing. We're going on with this next semester. Another project that we're working on, this is another grad student of mine, is bringing the graffiti cars, the famous ones which sort of sparked the modern day graffiti movement from like the Bronx and Washington Heights. My student has connected with some of the original writers and they're endorsing the project. We have a show for this in Bushwick, and we're going to be showing it on the train tracks. I think it's going to be incredible. So if anybody's out, I think this should be a lot of fun. We'll have a number of significant figures are going to turn up for the show, and we're actually kind of letting them curate it, so it should be a lot of fun. Again, I'm the CEO of Semblance Augmented Reality. I work with my vice president, Animesh Anand, and we have probably about like 6 people working for us right now. We're juggling probably about 6 projects. Some of them are commercial, some of them are a little more on the activist art side. We go back and forth. So what I came here to really show you guys today is kind of our flagship product is the app called Create-R. And it's an app which basically lets you make anything, anywhere. We're trying to make augmented reality easy, and we're trying to bring it to the masses. This is the purpose of our app. So let's take a look here. So here's how it basically works. This is what we're going for. We have a working demo. You can all try it out now. It works here. We're showing it downstairs. But through voice recognition, you basically ask your phone to make something, and then it will generate it in front of you. And here we go. Is this stage 1, stage 2? And then you have your content. So this works. This works now. How does it work? We have a database. The database is filled with probably about 5,000 objects right now. We sort of keep track of what everybody's asking for, so you can fool us once, but you're not going to get us the second time. And if we don't make the database search, then it's going to do a Google image search. We're working on getting a Google 3D warehouse search, so you'll be generating 3D content. We'll also have it set up so that when you are in the creation process, you'll have, right now, if I make a cat, it's just going to make one cat. We'll have a selection menu, so you can choose from a whole bunch of cats. You can choose whatever kind of cat you want. All right, going along. So here are some of the things I've done with CreateR. We get the question a lot, if you've made an app which can kind of create anything, well, what are you going to do with it? I had a one-man show in Brooklyn not that long ago, and I performed with it. So I sort of use it as an art tool in my own personal practice, but we see this app really kind of spreading across all different fields, and we think it can really help a lot of different people out in need. So I basically created a flood. This is all animated. Everything that you're seeing, the water on the ground is animating. These waves crashing are actually moving across the screen. They're animated. And I did a rescue. We had a helicopter come in, and then they rescued the people on the boat. There was audio with it as well. So some of the things you can do with CreateR, anybody can upload their own audio content. It's as easy, or your own images, your 3D models. All you have, it's as easy as attaching a file to an email. That's it. You just hit the browse button, find your file, hit upload, and then launch the app. Type in the word that you named it, and you'll generate your content where you are. So you can generate it in the White House. You could generate it in North Korea if they have a connection. You can generate it anywhere, pretty much. So here are some objects that have been generated. Actually, this was part of a show I curated that happened last Friday. So this was the Bushwick Open Studios. We do an intervention there. It's the longest running mobile augmented reality intervention. And this is Thomas Buttonwood. He's one of the artists in the event. But these are the gates of Bushwick, so we have something like that. There's Liberty on the bus. I take the bus to work in the morning, so I found Liberty on the bus. This is from the one-man show at Devotion. It got kind of crazy. The giant teeth are kind of chomping, and we had a slide and a flood and a number of houses that were trapped in it. Other things, this is Manhattan, so this is kind of stretching across all of Manhattan to get some kind of scale, a sense of scale and whatnot. This is actually Arnie. Okay, this is Arnie, so kind of bringing it back to everybody who's here. This is New York Augmented Reality Meetup. This was actually held at NYU Polytech, and I augmented the meetup with CreateR live on site. This is in front of NYU Polytech, made with CreateR again. So again, just kind of asking for things, and it's generating them live on site. So going back to the question of if you had this tool, what would you do with it? What we can do right now, anyone in this room can do this. You can generate the surface of the moon. We took a high-resolution scan of the moon. I put it into a 3D software package and then generated the topology. What could happen is if I was a high school teacher, I could take my class into the playground, load up the app, and now you're actually walking across the surface of the moon in scale. So it works. You can go on the Grand Canyon. You can go on the surface of the ocean. All of these things. And we have about 13 high schools participating right now with their science teachers. So they're actually very excited about it. Here are other things I made with CreateR on the bus. Here's the surface of the moon. You're looking at it at NYU Polytech. That was shot on last Saturday. This was the Research Expo. So what's happening with this? We're taking it further. We're doing a Kickstarter. And what we're going to do is we're going to have individual user accounts because the problem is you can edit everything you make. I can make it bigger, smaller, move it left, right, up, down. I can also animate it. We can animate it and other things. But the problem is people start making a lot of content. We get a few hundred objects in the scene, and then everybody's kind of crashing into each other. We're making basically user accounts, so you'll have, you can control who sees your content and who can delete it. There'll be a freestyle kind of layer, which everybody can see everything on. And I didn't show the last slide. That stinks. So I hate to say, I'm just going to have to do a visualization. To kind of close, the final closing would be where we're going with this software. If you can create anything anywhere, we're going into interactive experiences, and the first target is going to be video game creation. So think if you go to the park, I can basically lay a game out across the park. We have a working first-person shooter mechanic already on a standalone app. What you're seeing before was built on top of Layer. The new one will be standalone with these individual user accounts. The focus of the app will be ease of use. So we're going to kind of reduce the interface as much as possible. We're basically targeting high school kids for the app. So you could basically set up your own game. We're also targeting kind of industry and whatnot. We have a tool which lets you annotate as you go around. You can leave audio files behind. You can leave text at certain locations if you wanted to do things of this sort. So that's kind of what we do, and yeah, that's us.
So questions for Mark? Actually, if you want to just ask it and I'll repeat it.
So you're saying that you made a first-person shooter for high school kids where they shoot each other outside. Is that correct?
No, it's the mechanic. It's the mechanic.
Okay.
So what the mechanic is, let me explain. I just was simplifying in the interest of time. You can project an object through space, and it can kind of collide with another object, and we can basically get a response.
So it's not like you're
It's
having
not
kids
like a
go to
gun.
the park and play Call of Duty.
You could, technically. The goal is one of the bigger things we're trying to do is you have the younger generations, you have a certain kind of demographic which play a lot of video games and they don't really get up off the couch. I don't think they're going to give technology up, so we're kind of using we're drawing them out is what the idea is, not trying to push them out. We're trying to find a common ground where they can, be physically active while still being engaged with the technology. A little bit. Okay. Wait, and just kind of, I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay.
Well, the other goal is really to kind of get people to create their own things. We don't want to provide games for them. We'd like people to kind of create their own content. There'd be libraries. We'll have a library of scripts. That's where this mechanic would kind of come in for the shooter. Like where you can kind of project an object, it hits something else. That script would be free. Anybody can take it, they can build on top of it, and then we really encourage people to kind of build off of that and add their own scripts to the library or their own content. There'd be one library which is paid for, so if people want to start charging for what they do, they could do that. And then there's another one which would be free. That's the general setup. Yeah?
And then how do you get around copyright infringement? Like, could I go and take could I do an Angry Bird shooter?
You could. Then I guess we haven't completely sorted that part out. But we're trying to give as much ownership to the user as possible. So I'd say it's sort of like if it would come down to the user a little bit, is the way I would imagine it. If you're making a website and I start taking other people's content and putting it on it, probably fall into a similar class. We're working it out.
So I'm curious because it kind of seems like some of this is really neat. I almost think you're like the Anonymous of AR with some of these examples. With the things like in Wall Street and others, what was the turnout? How many people did you have that were engaged, either contributing or participating or both?
So I'd say we had about 35, 40 people adding stuff to it. 35 were solid. Some of them were a little kind of flaky at the edges. You had a tremendous outpour from the online community. We had a lot of support coming from there. People who turned up on site. We did a flash mob. We actually did a flash mob at Wall Street, and we were all augmented, sort of like Ghost in the Shell. You kind of mask your face out, and we all had little masks, AR masks. And I don't know, we had 20 people show up for that. It wasn't a huge turnout, but this was in the middle of the protest. So those of you who weren't at Wall Street when it was happening, basically they barricaded all of Wall Street off. You couldn't go inside. It's like screaming for an intervention. Anybody who does augmented reality is like, I got to put something here. And we did, and we put lots of stuff there. And then, so then after Wall Street, we actually did AR Occupy May Day on the year around after they kicked everybody out of Wall Street. And we had a global occupation. We had participation from a lot of countries. I can't remember off the top of my head, but at least 20 or 30 countries were participating. Across the Middle East, Asia, Korea, China, Japan, South America, Mexico, all over. We had people, a pretty large network now. And we work with these people regularly, I think, so.
So then you don't have to be on site to create these experiences?
Yeah, no, you don't.
Okay.
And also with Create AR, if I wanted to, I don't want to get too complicated, but you could just basically, if I wanted to send some flowers home to Mom right now, I could type in flowers. I type in the street address of where my mom is, I hit Create, and it's there. She turns her phone on, and she'll see it. Yeah.
I guess I'm asking for a brief of the tech behind it. What's is there collisions? Is it just geolocated based?
So right now it's geolocated. In the standalone app, we're talking about getting like point clouds or image recognition going as well. That'll be a separate feature. We're also talking about in the standalone letting users load their own content. So preloaded content. I don't have to get a connection to like actually see it
Right.
on site. Anything else?
No, I just, my mind went off. From first-person shooter, I think it would be fun to shoot marshmallows at something that someone else created in
Yeah.
a park. So that's what I came to my mind when you said
I like
first-person
it.
shooter. Yeah.
Actually, maybe we'll do it.
We have a few more questions here. Oh, excuse me.
Hey, Mark. I just wanted to bring up, because this is an art and museum sort of panel, maybe you'd like to share what you did with your first intervention in
MoMA?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was a collaboration between myself and Sandra Wienhoff. Basically, would be sort of considered one of the first interventions. Like, it's questioning the line between public and private. That's what the project really kind of came down to. I kind of acted like a curator on the show. Most of the people who became Manifest AR were the people I brought into the show, and after that, it kind of took off. Let me think. There was a lot of difficulty working in the Museum of Modern Art. You have lots of very tall buildings around. We're doing geolocated intervention, and things were bouncing around, moving like 100 meters in one direction and another direction. We created some very incredible work in the show. I did a piece where we took a section of the U.S.-Mexico border where people had actually passed away, and I placed it across the MoMA courtyard, so across the garden section. And if there's a little ravine you can walk across, and if anybody's been in the Museum of Modern Art's courtyard, you know there's like a rock garden, and there's little bridges, and it actually lined up. You could walk from one side to the other. Other pieces that were done, Sonder added a floor onto the top of the building. One of my good friends, Will, put a giant toad in one of the rooms, and it looked great. I had some occupation forces. These little aliens were kind of occupying the whole building. And my grad class was also participated in the event, and they helped organize. And what I'd also say, there wasn't a lot of the museum retweeted our event. We got like 325,000 retweets in 2 hours. But I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. It was good. They didn't fight against us in the museum, because in the Museum of Modern Art you're allowed to have mobile devices out, and everybody does. There's no way they were going to stop us. Like, everybody has their smartphone out. We thought it was going to be a problem, but when I went in and looked, it was like there's no way they can kind of stop us.
So, and then it looks like we have the last question here, and so.
Hi.
Hey.
I had a quick question regarding your Occupy Wall Street AR element that you created.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get the people who are participating in the Occupy movement to engage in that AR app, that AR environment that you created? Did they know that they needed to get? How did they know? You know?
Okay, so I'd say I went to Zuccotti Park like almost every day when it was at its peak, when it was peaking. So for like about 3 weeks, I was going almost at least every other day. And I'd go, I don't know how many people who went here, but there were basically a line of protesters surrounding the park, and they'd all have kind of their little protest board, their message. I would go and document all of them, and I'd have a communication with them. We'd have a dialogue. I'd tell them what we're doing. I'd cut them out, and then I'd move them down to Wall Street. My idea. So we had like 50 projects there, because some of the artists contributed a lot. But my idea was to move the protesters to where they were supposed to be, or their original intention and originally planned location was. So yeah, I got to know a lot of them. Some of them I didn't get to know. Not all of them had smartphones. So, it was a mixed bag. I didn't have any real negative reception from them. A lot of negative feedback. Yes?
So it was just more so one-to-one communication. You didn't have any messaging, like you didn't use like emails to people say, hey, I'm going to create this, download this app so you can participate in this aspect of the Occupy movement.
I would go around and show them the app when I was there and say, you should download this and go look at it. And you'd get a bunch of them who would. I didn't send out emails. We did send out emails to the main movement. Like, I was letting them kind of know, but I think they were getting flooded with so much stuff at that point that it was kind of like looking at the sun.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you for the panelists for putting the AR in art for sure, right? You know, so round of applause, please.